Yeah, let's actually play... Maybe we can play somebody lower rated. Like a sub. So maybe somebody in like the 1,300-1,500 range, if you guys want. It's been... Because I've been doing pretty high rated. Tommy, if you want a game, I can give you a game, but 10 minutes. Or 10 or 15 minutes. Alright, Tommy. Let's go. Wow. He's very underrated. Let's go with the d4. Let's go d4. Okay, d4, d5. We're going to play Beth Harmon style Queen's Gambit. We are going... Okay, dc. So, how to play in this position. This is the Queen's Gambit accepted. It is not a bad opening. Very, very popular at the highest level. White has a couple of ways to respond here. Essentially, the lines are divided into two categories. One is you can play the move pawn to e3. The upside of that move is that d4 is better protected. The downside is that obviously the bishop is blocked. But the most ambitious way to respond is, and this has become the most popular move in recent years, and that is e4. e4 is the natural move. Obviously, it leaves these pawns pretty exposed. There's a lot of theory here. But if black is not careful, black could get in very serious trouble here. If we just recover the pawn, we'll have a beautiful center. So all of black's main lines consist of moves that essentially attack these two pawns as quickly as possible. Yeah, one of the moves is actually to play e5 and offer up a counter sacrifice. Knight f6 is one of the top moves. Okay, so here the old move is to go knight c3. But after knight c3, black plays e5. I'll show you this after the game. And that line is not considered good for white. I mean, it's not great. Black equalizes comfortably. So what we want to do here is actually go e5. Thank you, Gata, for the raid. Much appreciated. Good time to join. Yeah, bishop d3. And now we recover the pawn with bishop takes e4. This is theory. I had a game like this with Jeffrey Zhang in the US Championship. What does the battle revolve around in a position like this? Well, both sides have their advantage. We have a very nice pawn center. We have a space advantage. Black has control over this key square in d5. So the battle is going to revolve around whether white is able to essentially get control of the square. If we get control of the d5 square, black is going to be in trouble almost instantly. Bishop f5. Yeah, that is... and I'm not too well versed in the theory myself. There's also a lot of tactical subtleties here. I don't think bishop f5 is correct. I think the move is to go knight b6. Yeah, so queen b3 looks like it essentially ends the game, but I don't believe it does. Because if you follow this line, queen b3, he goes e6. And then if we grab this pawn, black can simply go knight d7 and get a very big development advantage in return for the pawn. I actually don't want that pawn. I want to focus on what's important, which is to get control of the d5 square. So I'm proposing either knight e2 followed by knight bc3, or the immediate knight c3. Let's go maybe with the immediate... but maybe knight c3, he's got some knight b4 action. So let's go, actually, let's go knight e2. Let's just develop the knight. And then go knight bc3. I'm going to play this calmly. All right. Yeah, g4 would be just a one-move threat. That would weaken the king side. We don't want that. Why doesn't the knight belong in f3? That's a great question. There are a couple of reasons. One is that he could always go bishop g4 and pin the knight. Whereas if we go knight e2, bishop g4 is not dangerous due to f3. The other reason is that this knight defends its brother on c3, and that plays more into our general idea of controlling d5. Bishop b4. Remember, save your specific questions for after the game. Bishop b4 is a good move. It doesn't create any threats. This check does not do anything, just develops the knight to c6. So we shouldn't do anything special. All we should do is castle here. We're just developing our pieces. And now queen b3 is quite a serious idea because it hits the bishop. It pressures the knight. So queen b3 is something black will have to be very careful about. c6. Solid. Tommy is playing pretty decent chess here. I think black is worse, but not much worse. Okay, what to do here? Couple of approaches that we could take. I really like the move queen b3. I feel like it puts very significant pressure on black's pieces. Knight g3 is not playable here. Or maybe actually it is. Ooh. Now that I think about it, I think knight g3 is playable. And more than playable, it's very, very interesting. Okay, let's do it. So I'm going to play this move, and then after the game, I'm going to walk you through the logic of how I was able to figure out that it's playable. Knight g3 looks like a blunder. Why does it look like a blunder? Because black can play knight takes c3, bc, bishop takes c3. Not only have we lost a pawn, our rook in the corner is also trapped. But I forced myself to calculate a little bit deeper than that. So I saw this position in my mind after bishop c3. And I figured out that the rook being trapped does not tell the whole story. Remember that black is uncastled, and we have contact between the knight and the bishop. There's also a very weak square on d6. If we occupy that square with the knight, we're going to get a pretty devastating attack. So what we want to start with is knight takes f5. Simple move. If he takes the rook, we don't even really need to calculate that. We can go knight d6 with devastating compensation. This is the move that I think is quite critical. And I think here we have a very pretty move. We have a very, very pretty move. What are the options? Option 1 is bishop takes f7. A lot of you, I think, are excited about this tactic. King takes f7, queen b3, and we recover the bishop with a big advantage, for sure. Great, great idea. Logical. But let's not limit ourselves to that. Do we really want to give away this bishop? There's quite a typical idea here that I've seen in the Italian. Rather than taking on f7 immediately, we can prepare bishop takes f7 with a double attack. The move queen b3, I think, is very, very promising. And we are sacking the rook, but essentially it's a fork. We are forking the pawn on f7 and the bishop on c3. It's pretty easy to calculate the variations here. Bishop takes a1, bishop takes f7. And if the king steps into this diagonal, bishop a3 is just checkmate. This is pretty thematic stuff. If you've played the Italian, you should be familiar with a similar line in the Italian. This is an advanced fork, but this is something that comes with experience, you know, understanding that this is just totally devastating. Black is completely undeveloped here, and we've got all of our pieces in the attack. Yeah, bishop takes a1, bishop takes f7. The most resilient is king d7, but there we have a move. Yeah, now the king is totally trapped. Boxed in, box, bishop a3. Okay, and he resigns. Good game. Yeah, after queen e7, if we want to win the fastest way possible, queen e6 is the most clinical move. And the prettiest. Queen takes a3, queen e8, checkmate. Okay. Good game, Tommy. That's what you get for trolling. Okay, so e4. Knight f6 is one of many moves. First important point is that knight c3 allows e5. Very nasty. Very, very nasty. You might say, wait a second, just take the pawn, attack the knight. But if you follow this line, queen takes d1, white is in a tough situation here. You don't want to take with a knight and give the e4 pawn. You certainly don't want to take with a king and allow knight g4. Now you don't have castling rights. The knight comes around and takes the pawn. White is actually just worse here. Yeah, I'll show the Italian line in a second. Therefore, we go e5. Knight d5, bishop takes c4. And if memory serves me right, the cool people, Tommy's not included in that category, go knight b6. They step away immediately to take the sting out of the move queen b3 and knight c3. All right. We'll see, I know. Okay. So, is this the line that Greco? No. So he goes bishop f5, which is not a terrible move. Just to show queen b3 here. Oh yeah, what about queen f3? Queen f3 allows e6, and I think black defends everything. So forks can often be defended against with these individual pawn moves. Thank you, Ordruin. And bishop takes d5. Obviously, this loses a piece, but black can play queen takes d5. So these kinds of moves don't work. Queen b3, e6, queen takes b7, and probably the most accurate here is to go knight b6 or even knight d7. And this is a very instructive line because here white can win a second pawn. You're probably looking at this saying, wait a second, bishop takes d5, e takes d5, queen takes d5, and I'm sure white is better here objectively, but look at this another way. Black has a big development advantage, 2 bishops. Why go into a position like this when you can play in a perfectly sound positional manner? Thank you, Ace 791. Bishop b4 check. This is a little bit nasty. I don't like it when the queen is the only piece that's developed. So be careful about hunting for pawns like this when you don't have other pieces developed. And also, don't overestimate this situation. Very rarely is this rook actually trapped. I see a lot of people go into this thinking, the rook is trapped. But because the queen makes contact with the rook, this move often just saves everything. And even sometimes black can give up the rook and then trap the queen. There's many lines like this. Many lines like this. So just file this away into your mental tactical toolkit. I can give you an example. In the Nimzo Indian, this is a random opening, but I'm just showing you this because of the variation. There's a line here. There's a line here where, let me try to remember it actually. Yeah, so essentially, sorry. Can I remember it? No, it's not like this. Just give me a second. Why am I having trouble remembering it? There's a line where black gives up the rook, that rook on a8. But anyway, I can't remember it right now for some reason. But anyway, there are many lines like this. It doesn't really matter. Back to the game. Thank you, Jiggly Pickles, for the prime. Okay, so bishop b4, castles. Already black is worse. And Tommy goes c6, which I kind of like. I think this move supports the knight on d5. Yeah, why knight e2? So, as I was explaining, knight f3 looks like a more active developing move, but here the knight does not support the c3 square. From e2, it's also able to go to f4. So everything here revolves around getting control of this square. It's very important to understand this. So when you look at a developing move, don't just say knight e2 is inferior to knight f3. That's often not the case. Knight e2 is just an alternate way of developing that has its pros and cons, if that makes sense. So e6, knight c3, bishop b4, castle c6. And now this move, knight g3. Now, which is the line in the Italian? This one I do remember. Why doesn't knight b4 work here? Knight b4 probably does work, actually. To be honest, I overlooked this. I think we castle here. And after knight c2, I'm going to tell you something insane. I think we can sacrifice that rook. And the computer confirms this. We can go knight g3. We can go knight g3. And we just give the rook up. And this is a very similar line. This position is winning for white. Look at black's development. Just e6. This is crushing. Who cares about this rook? White's got everything in the attack. Black can resign here. And I'm not calculating any variations. Just look at black's king. Everything's collapsing. Big reason why black is lost here is because black doesn't have a light squared bishop. Here you can very clearly see the problem of having a weakness on a bunch of squares of the same colors. Like black will never be able to castle. Some positions don't need to be spelled out. They can just be understood. This is where intuition comes in. So knight g3, I'm not going to pretend I saw this. I didn't. Black can play bishop g6 here. And here the computer suggests an amazing move. Bishop g5. Who can figure out what the idea is after queen takes g5? Amazing, amazing concept. I've talked about this on a speedrun very long ago. When there is a very big distance between two pieces, such as a bishop defending a knight, the wider the distance, the more opportunity there is for an interference tactic. The more opportunity there is for an interference. What is an interference tactic? When you put a piece in the middle. Whoa, Chessbra rating 788. Welcome. Guess who I'm analyzing my speedrun game with Tommy. You guys come at a great time. Thank you so much, Eric. You're the man. Welcome, Chessbras. We are doing some speedrunning. I'm going to be teaching box pretty soon. Hope you guys stick around. Welcome, everybody. Yeah, that's right, Brandon. So I'm talking about an interesting moment in the game with Tommy where we have this insane tactic, knight ce4. Intercepting the defense of the bishop on the knight. The queen has to move. Queen takes c2, and white is a great position here. Despite the fact that black is pinning the knight, this is well protected. Another reason to put the knight on e2, it can go to g3. So I think knight b4 was the best practical chance, but Tommy goes bishop b4, right square, wrong piece. And here knight g3. How did I see this move? Well, there's a famous line in the Italian. I feel like Aman probably has shown this. What is this line? It's a line in the classical Italian. It's been around for literally 400 years. Gioacchino Greco first, I think, proposed this line. And this is the classical Italian. You sacrifice the pawn. I'm sure you guys have seen this before. And here you castle. Now, the modern move is to take on c3 with the bishop. But if you haven't seen this before, you're looking at this saying, what if I just take with a knight and take on c3? And this is a very similar situation to the one that occurred in my game. If you fast forward here, bishop on c3, bishop on c4, weak pawn on f7, you can recognize the pattern. And again, a lot of you, I'm sure, are tempted by bishop takes f7. This looks cool. And it's not a bad move. Queen b3, the king is devoid of castling rights. White is doing amazing here. But you don't play bishop f7, you play queen b3. This is the winning move. Bishop takes a1, bishop takes f7. It's not exactly the same, because here, if you play bishop a3, black has d6, so bishop a3 is a mistake. But here, the bishop has a different square. What should white do here? Who can tell me? This is the crushing move. It's just a slightly different approach to the position. Bishop g5. Goodbye, queen. Knight e7, rook e1, and everything collapses here. If black tries d6 and black basically says, hey, I'm going to give you my queen for 2 rooks, white has an amazing move here. Bishop g8. Look at this. Enlarging the diagonal for the queen. Rook takes g8. Now the rook is in the queen's crosshairs. Now you take on e7. And in the end, the rook hangs. White is crushing, winning everything. This is really cool. I don't know. I don't remember if Greco gave bishop g8, but there's alternate wins here. It's just really, really cool stuff. If black plays knight takes d4, trying to short circuit white's mechanism here, you give a check on a3. This is a very important check, and then you take the queen. So this is a famous line in the Italian. It's been around for many, many years. That's why I always tell my students, you shouldn't discount games like Top Games, or those of you from the chess. Eric is playing a game in the or Aman is playing a game in the Habits speedrun, and he plays an opening that you don't play. Don't just roll your eyes and close the tab. Try to engage with that opening, because you learn ideas that you can apply to other openings. And this is actually a very big part of why I think some players are successful. You don't have to play an opening to know its ideas and then to borrow them and apply them to your own opening. Maybe I'm making too big of a deal with this, but so Tommy takes, and this is a slightly different entry. If bishop takes a1, then knight d6 check is completely crushing. Here, for example, we can play bishop a3. The computer gives bishop takes e6, which is the strongest move. Very simple tactics. Queen comes to f7, checkmate. Yeah, Tommy had 996. ef5, and same idea. Boom, boom, boom. Here we play bishop a3, and it's literally just checkmate. If king d7, then we play queen takes b7, queen c7. We obviously don't take the rook. We go e6. The king is the worst defender. Boom, boom, it's winning. So that was a very instructive game, I think. Does anybody have questions? From which opening did this arise? This was a queen's gambit accepted. No, bishop f6 is impossible. There's a pawn here. What if bishop takes d4 after queen b3, asks J Beast. If bishop takes d4, then bishop f7, king f8, and here probably bishop a3 checks c5, and just queen takes b7. I mean, here this is slightly more resilient for black, but black's position is still falling apart. So this is completely crushing.